Hi, I'm Tony Russo, and in this latest installment of my Bagel Manifesto, wherein I discuss belief, culture, and the profound sense of loss that nobody cares about bagels anymore, I'm going to talk about Opus Dei. I've recently reviewed the book Opus, The Cult of Dark Money, Human Trafficking, and Right-Wing Conspiracy Inside the Catholic Church by Gareth Gore, and it is a really important book that is absolutely worth reading. I hope my review will convince you to buy it. If not, I'm going to be referencing it a lot going forward. It is a horror show, and I'm going to explain why. So let's get into it, and stick around on the other side because I got more stuff to tell you when it's over. If you woke up this morning thinking that you couldn't hold the Catholic Church in lower regard, I've got a book for you. Opus, The Cult of Dark Money, Human Trafficking, and Right-Wing Conspiracy Inside the Catholic Church by Gareth Gore is an extraordinary work that will make you wish for an international cabal as tame as the one fictionalized by Dan Brown in The Da Vinci Code. I want to tell you a tale of two Catholics. At a family party last summer, my aunt, who is so kind sometimes I forget she's Catholic, got up to get a drink. My brother's father-in-law, who wears his Catholicism like a suit of spiky armor, took her seat. When she returned and asked for her seat back, he said, "Women's lib," and stayed put. You see, he doesn't want to hate independent women, but he knows his God wants him to hate independent women. As someone who doesn't take orders from any god, I was happy to vacate my seat and find better company elsewhere. There's no talking to people who hate on their god's behalf because they've laid off their moral agency like a skillful bookie. The central problem of religion broadly, and Catholicism specifically, is the one true Scotsman fallacy. Everyone gets to have their own opinion about what a real Christian does and believes. This is old, tedious ground, and I won't retread it except to mention it for context. Too often, and to the great detriment of our culture, we think of religion as mostly benign, except for a couple of bad actors. But as the religious right continues to insert itself into politics, following the Opus Dei apologetics that it is a moral imperative to use democracy to effect theocratic rule, it's time to wonder whether Christianity isn't essentially traitorous, treasonous, and anti-American. I want to paraphrase Mary Midgley here when I say that the existence of a hairless baboon doesn't invalidate the statement, baboons are hairy. Generalizations can be effective descriptors. Lerone A. Martin touched upon the case for Christianity as an anti-democratic ideology in The Gospel of J. Edgar Hoover, how the FBI aided and abetted the rise of white Christian nationalism, which revealed the iconic FBI director's crusade to infuse every branch of government with Christianity's racist, xenophobic, homophobic, misogynist philosophy. Gore enters and expands upon this conversation with his work of adept, engaging reportage. The story of Robert Hansen, Opus Dei member, FBI agent, and the, quote, most damaging spy in Bureau history, unquote, is an easy and relatively well-known example. In 1979, Hansen's wife discovered he was a Russian agent. Both devout Catholics and Opus Dei supernumeraries, they went to their spiritual advisor for direction. A fundamental precept of Opus Dei is that confessors share what they learn with the cult's higher-ups and record every conversation for potential blackmail. After telling Hansen to turn himself in and presumably informing his superiors in Rome, the priest called the next day with a different punishment. Hansen's penance for betraying his country was that he had to donate any money he made from spying to Opus Dei. The history of this Catholic cult echoes with a certain mafioso ideology. Earning matters more than rules, practice, and honor. Sex pests and pedophiles who earn for the church get protection. The others are expendable. One wonders whether Hansen's decision to trade money for information was specifically to make his nut for his Opus Dei superiors. One further wonders whether the FBI cared very much about the white evangelical Christian aspect of his betrayal. Opus details the decades-old plan for establishing a judicial pipeline that eventually put Roberts, Scalia, Alito, Thomas, Gorsuch, and Barrett on the Supreme Court. Bork was a near miss. with the express purpose of Christianizing the law of the land, as well as finding more and richer donors to fund their theocratic cause. Opus Dei had effectively infiltrated the Vatican to run its global conspiracy with the help and blessing of John Paul II. And that is just a slice. I could enumerate the horrors, tricking thousands of poor women and girls into a lifetime of servitude and slavery in the extensive Opus Dei network of homes, colleges, and meeting facilities, but I wouldn't do the story justice. What makes Opus worth reading is that Gore presents it with the color and flair of a well-done spy novel, but more like Umberto Eco's Foucault's Pendulum than Brown's pop classic. I've not read any other reviews, but it wouldn't shock me to see The Big Short referenced in some. The financial woes at Spain's Banco Popular are a through line, emphasizing how critical finance was. Expensive retreats for wealthy donors and politicos require fortunes and slave labor for upkeep. Although he rarely slips into the first person, this is the story of a reporter covering a massive bank collapse. I'll give you 3 guesses why Banco Popular tanked, who stumbled upon a worldwide financial and political conspiracy. He lays the pieces together at a pace rapid enough to keep the reader hooked, but with the pointed resolve of a prosecutor. Odd as it may be to hear, the real coup was his decision not to interrupt the story's flow with, quote, proof, unquote. There are endnotes instead of footnotes for the skeptical and the interested. I read Opus on Kindle, and as I swiped the last page, the screen indicator said I'd only completed 60% of the book. Opus is 60% narrative and 40% notes, which is why a work of this depth and detail reads so well. Gore provides proof for those who want to check it, but he never stops the flow with extensive verifications and exposition. As with any great international thriller, he gives enough exposition to avoid plot holes, but not so much that you find yourself zoning out. I don't know if Opus is a clarion call, but at the very least, the work puts people who are still willing to see religion as a putative force for good on notice. Very little stands between the theocrats and the kind of social and economic hegemony that could forever change what it means to be a law-abiding citizen. I can't recommend this book highly enough. Thanks so much for listening. If you have not subscribed to my newsletter, I would love it if you did. It's at bytonyrusso.com. That is bytonyrusso.com. There I do a whole array of things. I've been working on this series about a couple of odd pens, actually an odd pen and pencil set that I found. I've been continuing to do my postcard return to sender thing where I hunt down people who sent postcards back in the 50s and see if they're still alive and if they remember sending the postcards. There's all sorts of cool stuff going on. I would love for you to participate or at least read it. And more important, I'd love for you to stay in touch with me. The other thing that's really cool about this Substack where I have my all of my work or most of my work is there's a chat function. And I've decided that as I'm reviewing these books, I'm going to make notes in the chat function for anyone who wants to check out my notes after they read my or listen to my review of the book. So if you swing over to Substack and you subscribe to my Substack, you will have access to the chat. There's no cost. I'm sorry, subscribe, but it's free to subscribe. There's no cost. You can go to the chat and look up Opus Dei, and I do a chapter by chapter breakdown of interesting facts, notes, and observations I had while I was doing the book. I am getting ready to start my next book next week, so now is a great time to check that out. But actually, I'm getting ready to do my next book this week as this comes out. So that's all I have for this time. I'll have something else for you hopefully in the very near future. This whole pencil thing is going to come out as a long-form podcast on my Object History channel. But that'll do it for this week. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great Thanksgiving. I'm putting this out Thanksgiving week, so I think many of you will have a chance to listen to it. I hope that you like it. I hope that you read it. Please feel free to comment on it or to email me privately, which you can do from bytonyrusso.com if you don't want to make your concerns, objections, complaints public. Although I tend to find that people love making their complaints public. All right, that'll do it. Have a great Thanksgiving. We'll check in with you next time.